Good evening, golf friends. Happy summer. How about the U.S. Open? John Rod totally won it. Really excited for the golf season in this summer, and I'm really excited to be hosting Tuesday Traces from a very, very special place tonight. I am with a bunch of my Rockstar teammates. Almost all of our team has traveled to Detroit to the V1 Sports headquarters this week for a sales and management meeting and to speak the good word about all the wonderful things happening at our company. So tonight we're crashing the boss's home studio to have a little pressure discussion about putting. I'm thrilled to be live and in person here with these guys. And just really quickly, I got to pan around so you can see who's here. So really quickly, look at all these people: social media, marketing, customer success, sales. Everybody knows that guy. Give him a big wave, Jackson. That's our Rockstar Jackson. There's some big bosses in the background over there. I think they're a Kenny, sales, Nick and sales. All right, so that's our whole team. We're so excited they're here. All right. So in addition to all the team, we are here with our fearless leader, CEO and visionary, Bryan. Bryan is an investor and entrepreneur at Opportunity Seed Capital, specializing in venture capital investments in sports and technology. After graduating from San Diego State in marketing and finance degree, he was drafted by the Detroit Rockers, named Rookie of the Year, won an NPSL championship, named Series MVP, and they're the starting lineup of 4 all-star teams. We also think he's an all-star. Bryan, thank you so much for all the exciting things happening at V1 Sports and for letting us crash your home studio tonight.
Thank you for having me. You're so kind. Mandy's my new agent, by the way. Really quickly about V1, which I love to do. 26-year-old company. So excited to have my team here. We have over 10,000 golf pros on our platform, over 3 million users who rely on us for V1 Golf, V1 Golf Plus, and V1 Game to track their stats. But we're really here to talk about pressure. I'll be honest with you. I wish we were talking about long drive today, but we are talking about putting. But before we do that, we got to get this thing out of the box, show you how easy it is to use it. And just literally take it out, plug it in, and get it going. So with that, Mandy, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Awesome.
Take us away.
Thanks, Bryan. And we're going to get back to Bryan's putting stroke soon. So also joining me, a super important teammate to me, is my teammate in the Northeast, Chip Carrell. He takes care of all of you golf pros that are chilly, where it's too cold for my bones in the South. But Chip is based in Pittsburgh and became a PGA pro in 1998. He spent 19 years as head pro and teaching professional at Diamond Run and Treesdale Golf and Country Club. I've been begging Chip to do a Tuesday Trace with me for months and months and months. I had to actually come and drag him in person. So Chip, I'm very thankful that you're here. He is a PGA pro and definitely makes me look smarter than I when I'm talking about golf instruction. So I really appreciate you being here. And Chip and I were talking about what we wanted to discuss on Tuesday Traces hosted from headquarters. And we wanted to talk about how easy the technology is to get in your hands. So first of all, let me just do a little housekeeping. I want everyone to know that if you have questions tonight, please put them in the chat window. Chip and I will answer them. If you're on Facebook, please put them in the Facebook chat. My girls back there who always take such care of us, they will send us the questions. And we will ask Chip or me or whoever else in this awesome team can answer them. Okay, so the first thing when you get a pressure mat is, what do you do with it? How do you hook it up? So we're going to actually go through the process of pulling a brand new pressure mat out of the bag. And I want to show you how easy it is to hook up. Chip, welcome to Tuesday Traces. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you, Mandy. I'm so glad to be here too. Really want to let you really understand that I spent 19 years as a golf pro, and during that time, technology was always a scary thing to take on. Every time you go to the driving range, are you going to add 10 minutes at the beginning and the end of your lesson to set up more technology? As far as the pressure mat, it's the simplest thing that I've seen. All you need is your iPad and your bag. You can carry this straight to the driving range, and it's going to hook up. This one is brand new out of the bag, never been hooked up. It's as simple as unzipping it. Throw it on the ground. It has a portable charger similar to a cell phone charger. and you plug it in. From there, we're going to open up our iPad. We're going to go into the settings. The pressure mat itself makes a wireless Wi-Fi connection, and it's always going to be the BT2 and then a string of numbers, the serial number. Password is always the same, BODITR ampersand K join. That's quickly, you're joined. We're going to open the V1 Pro app. When we open video, we now have our pressure traces. So it's that simple to be able to be live, up and running with a pressure mat and ready to teach a golf lesson. So the fear of the amount of time it takes to set up, all of those fun things are completely gone. Now, here's how quickly you can actually start using a pressure mat in a lesson. We've hooked it up. Putting is one of the most simple things to understand when you're starting the pressure mat. I like to set the pressure mat or the iPad right down there in front of somebody. You stand there and let it center. And now they can begin to take putting strokes. So as I'm taking my putting strokes, I'm trying to keep that center of pressure ball still. I don't want it moving back and forth. You see a lot of higher handicappers that are, using that sway. This is a simple way where they can actually see their field. They're seeing what they're doing. So again, if I step off the mat, I'm going to step on the mat to allow it to center. And this quickly, we could have beginners and a beginner clinic working on their stability and putting.
Hey, Chip, what are those two blue blobs that I see?
Those are my feet.
Oh, really? Which
Yep.
just one is your right foot?
My right foot would be my trail foot.
Right.
My left foot
Okay.
would be my lead foot.
Where's your toes?
These are my toes,
Right.
rocking back into my heels.
Cool. And what's that yellow line?
That is going to be the center of heel to toe and lead and trail. So that crosshair is going to be where the center of your pressure is once it recenters.
Okay. And what happens if I close my iPad and I quit the app? How do I get it hooked back up?
I just open it after that. Once it's been paired, after it's been paired one time, the next time when you just open up your app, the settings are already saved. So you don't have to retype in that password. You open up the app and you're ready to go.
So I don't have to enter it ever again.
Never
and
again.
It's totally plug and play.
Completely.
Pretty easy.
I think so.
And you're a golf pro and you got that all worked out every
Yeah.
time on the range?
Every time.
I
That's all you
dig
got to do.
I dig it. That's awesome. That's awesome. Okay. So I hope that we have proven how easy it is to hook up a mat. Literally, you hook it up to your iPad, wireless connection, you're off to the races to teach some golf lessons. Pretty simple.
It is. And one of the biggest fears when we sit here, I know talking to golf pros at the golf course, you see the pressure mat, you watch these Tuesday traces, you see the video, you see all of these, smart golf pros that have been on Tuesday traces that are really going in depth with all of these things. If you really look at the basics, you're able to get started, set it on the ground, put it in front of somebody in live mode, and you can use it just as a practice putting, practice chipping, pitching, all of those kinds of things, even before you understand all of the traces. So you're really able to hop in and get started with a very, very short learning curve.
I love it. And so that's the mobile setup, guys. We have both scenarios set up in the studio tonight. We wanted to show you how easy it is to set up the pressure mat with an iPad, because right now, if you buy an iPad, a pressure mat, we are giving you an iPad. So that scenario you just saw Chip set up is what you will get in the mail if you would like to purchase an iPad pressure mat tonight. Okay, we also have the pressure mat set up in the studio scenario, which means that it is hardwired to a V1 Pro Studio laptop, which we also have up here on the desk. And we thought it would be fun for Chip, our resident PGA pro, to give Bryan, our CEO, a putting lesson. And while we get our screen shared and we get Bryan set up on the mat, I just want to talk a little bit about putting. You guys have watched a lot of Tuesday Traces. We've talked a whole lot about the different percentages that should be your base point for long drive or full swing. We've never really done that for putting. Chip and I just was asking him some questions about my own putting. And so we wanted to talk about the base percentages for where you start and then what you should be looking for in the putting stroke. Yeah, go for it. So Anna, we're going to screen share the V1 Pro Studio. So we're going to need to cut that. Yep. So it looks like we've got the screen on. Awesome. That looks great. So you guys, just so you can see what we're looking at here, on the screen, that black box is the pressure graph. Chip's got the mat set up in the middle of the room. That cable coming out of it is hardwired to our studio. You can see Jackson's over here driving the computer, which is awesome. He's the expert, of course, at the software. And then, like we said earlier, the crosshairs are going to show the graph. The white dot in the middle is the center of pressure. And in a minute, the yellow line will be the linear trace or a trace. Okay. Chip, take it away.
Okay, guys. Oftentimes as we're putting, putting strokes are very individual. As you look over the years, you watch, you see the old Jack Nicklaus where he was very far back to the right side, hip buried or elbow buried in the hip, very handsy. Somebody who's more upright, you get a Tiger Woods, they're going to be completely different stance. All of these guys have had very, very different stances over the years. And honestly, I'm not going to tell any of them they did it wrong. One thing though that's very, very similar with all of their putting strokes is once they get set, they're still. So again, like we spoke earlier, you don't see any lateral movement in anybody who's putting on tour. So right now, Brian, if I get you to hop up here, I want you to get set up.
I was hoping you didn't need that.
So again, as we get set up, we give it a second to let it center. Okay, you're centered. Now, if he's getting ready to start his putting stroke, if you notice, those numbers right now are almost perfect, 50-50, right in the middle. So as he would take a putting stroke, see how stable the ball can stay? But then as you notice, he sort of, after he made his putting stroke, he sort of rocked back into his right side or into his trail side. So set up to it again. Set up, let it center. And when you're ready to go.
Ready?
Yep. Okay. And again, you see that just as he makes that putting stroke, what you notice is his hands go forward, his head comes back just a little bit. And that's just sort of the rocking motion of his body. And that's what you're seeing in that pressure trace. The pressure mat's actually so sensitive, it's just that little bit of movement in his head backwards. You're actually seeing that in the ground. So take one more stroke. Let's see if he's doing the same thing. You ready?
Yep.
Now you guys can't see it. You actually rolled all three of those right in the middle of the hole on a sim. So I've got to say that.
The hole is like 16 feet wide as well.
Okay. This time what I want you to do is I want you to get set up over it. Let it center. And I want you to get a little bit more weight into your lead side. So we're just a little bit forward, maybe 50. So you're still 50-50. Right about there. That's good. Just about 60. Now this time when you make that stroke, I want you to try and feel like you're keeping that weight forward into your lead side. I wasn't watching the dot, but again, through impact, he stayed much more forward.
Good luck.
Right there. So I just need to
Okay.
keep it there. Yep. I want to say a little forward. Can't watch the dot in him.
Chip, why are you asking him to put more weight in that?
Well, one thing that you notice when Bryan does take a putting stroke, he does sort of come back, backs up into it. Again, as we're putting, we don't want to rock backwards and hit up at the ball. And one thing that you notice, the way he's been putting, sort of through impact, he's coming backwards. And when he's coming backwards, he's actually adding loft onto the club. What we're trying to do is keep him forward so he's not, de-lofting the club. Optimal numbers, you probably want him around 60% into the lead side. You're going to see people who play the ball much farther forward off of their left side. You might even see it as high as 65 and sometimes even 70 if they're really leaning forward. But once you start getting people where they're backwards, that's where you're going to start getting more of this rocking motion.
Can I
within
ask
the
you a
golf
question?
swing. Yep.
You want 65% of my weight in my lead foot at setup or at impact of the putting stroke?
Well, you want it, once you get it there, you want it to stay there.
Okay, so when I'm setting up, I want to think about 65% on my left foot. Keep it there.
I would say optimal would be in that 55, 60 range, but if you're seeing 65, that's not a bad thing. It's just as long as it's staying forward. We get too far back, that's when you start seeing the people hitting up on the putting stroke, and that's what you really want to.
All right, and Chip, if I'm taking a golf lesson, how do I know how much weight is in my lead foot without a pressure mat? How do I correct that? How do I figure that out?
Well, the big thing is understanding what I would use the pressure mat for in the putting situation is working with the guy when he's putting well. So you understand when the guy's really putting well, you get him on that mat and you really understand where is he? Is he leaning out towards his toes? Because a lot of times we always have talked about wanting to be back in the heels. We need our eyes over the ball. So it's hard to stay in our heels and get our eyes over the ball. So putting, you are going to be a little more towards the toes. And then also, if we're a little further forward or, 50-50, we need to know those when we're putting well. So many times, people want golf lessons when they're struggling. A lot of times seeing your pro when you're playing your best is one of the best ideas because they now know, and especially with video banking within V1 Pro, now they know when you're playing well, what you're looking at. So now when you are struggling, everybody wants to compare themselves to the Tiger Woods and all the swing models the V1 library has. But there's nothing better than comparing yourself to when you're playing well. So that way, when you are struggling, you're able to look at those things because everybody has different bodies. Everyone has different physical limitations. So what we want to do is be the best we can be. So when we're struggling, if we can get back to our best playing ability and work on it from there, instead of always trying to compare, I think it's this day and age, we're always trying to compare ourselves to everybody else. But if we can really compare ourselves to the best we are, that's what we want to get back to and then continue the journey.
I love that. And I love the idea of capturing your trace when you're at your best so that it's in your library and you can keep going back to it.
Absolutely.
And also, speaking of putting, we've learned this tons on Tuesday Traces. It's such a different setup for pressure than the full swing or anything else, or the driver. The interesting thing for me is talking about the setup because we always talk about impact and full swing, right? Well, setup and putting really on your toes, right? Or balance, right?
Your balance, your 50-50, you could be a little more on your toes. And again, that all depends. Again, like we say, every putting stroke is very unique. Body type, your grip can affect how your feet are in putting. You've seen all these funky grips now, claw, all these kinds of things. Those are going to affect your balance within the putting stroke. So we want to make sure that whenever we get there, once we're there, we're making putting strokes and we're staying very stable. You might see a little bit of rock because just the weight of the putter head going back and forth, that weight of the putter head, the pressure mat itself is so sensitive, it's going to measure that weight when it's towards your trail foot and towards your lead foot. You will see that. But the one thing you want to make sure is you're not moving the head, backing up, any of that. It's really about getting there, staying stable, and really creating that pendulum swing.
Can we show an exaggerated sway move? Can we show what that looks like? Can we just show that? I mean, let's just see, putt, and let's just show how clearly you can see that on the mat, Brian, for the folks, that are looking at a lot of movement, all over the place putting, and how, you're a pretty good golfer there, boss.
I don't know.
So,
there you go.
I mean, I can just look at the trace there, guys, and see a huge, crazy difference, right?
And again, this was something that I did at one of the clubs. Just recently bought a pressure mat. I went out and helped him with the junior golf clinic, or not a junior golf clinic, ladies golf clinic. And all we did was just like I did in the beginning. We set an iPad right here on the ground in front of them. They stood there. They looked down. They rocked their feet back and forth a little bit. But at the ground, I'm looking up here because that's where my pressure trace is. And all they did was they tried to, actually they didn't even have a ball. All they did was take putting strokes, trying to keep that ball as still as they could. No ball, nothing. And then after they did that for a few minutes, we set a ball down, and then they just tried to repeat that. And we did it from about 6 feet, so they didn't feel like they had to hit it real far. So we got them feeling that stability with no sway. And then we moved them back to about 30 feet. Same thing, got them to set up over it. Then we let it sit. And then they tried to take that bigger swing, and you should still see a lot of stability. And it was as simple as that. I mean, again, they bought the pressure mat, they came out, we rolled it out the next day, and they hopped out on the range, and it was actually showing ladies to be able to set that down right in front of them and really be able to see what was going on.
And we're in the studio scenario tonight in a Bryan's home studio, and we're really showing some personal practice, right? So if you just had the mat and your golf instructor was not here, I really like showing off this live mode, right? Because you're going back and forth, and we're talking about sway, we're moving all over, and then we're trying to keep that ball still. And being able to see that on the pressure mat makes light bulbs go off, but you could never come close to understanding that without the ground data, right? I mean,
Absolutely. I mean, again, it's people learn by hearing it, seeing it, or feeling it. Those feel people, they can probably feel that they're keeping themselves stable, but by stepping on this as a visual learner, I can look down again. If that iPad's right here, I can see what I'm feeling, as opposed to, that those visual learners need something, and it really clicks and resonates with those folks.
That's awesome. And so just about putting,
Mm-hmm.
and we spoke about the other day about 50-50 at impact versus 65 or 70 at impact.
Absolutely.
Is that just golf professionals' preference?
No, it's, again, different body types. You might be right eye dominant, left eye dominant. Some people feel more comfortable with the ball further up in their stance, and you'll see them leaning more forward. I don't want to let it center. Where am I now? Because this is where I actually feel pretty comfortable.
You're at 70, and that's almost exactly what we talked about.
Yeah, and to me, this feels comfortable. And then again, all I'm going to do from here is pick up my right shoulder, pick up my left shoulder, make a little putting stroke. It's a very stable, position. I'm staying in that position throughout the stroke. You watch a Steve Stricker, you watch somebody like that. You always see the putter shaft up the arms. I mean, his putting stroke's absolutely beautiful. But once he gets there, he just makes that motion. There's not a lot of back and forth that you'll see.
All right, we got a couple questions. Okay, can you have the student turn their toes inward, pigeon-toed, and see what the tracer does? That's cool. Yeah, let's do that.
You want to do that, Bryan? Sure.
That's Bart. Bart, thanks for the great question. We love that.
And I will add, to what Chip said, the whole idea between visual learners, we know that about 67-68% of the population is a visual learner. That doesn't mean you don't learn other ways. Even if someone says, man, I can feel it or I'd like to hear it, a part of them is still visually seeing it. So even if you know that under your feet, being able to see it, even if you are an auditory learner, it amplifies what you're doing. And certainly if you're a visual learner like me, it's an immediate feedback piece, right? It's all right. So toes in.
1 second, set up tuck. Good. There you go.
Good.
Again, so his toes are in. He's always been pretty much close to 50-50. Toes are in. He's still at 50-50. It's
feel like it backed up a little bit.
Try one more time. I'm a straw, guys. Hazardous duty pay, guys.
All right. Same thing, turn my toes in.
Set up to it.
Good.
2 seconds. Wait. Go.
You go off and on. We're ready.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay.
Yeah, like actually turning his toes in, he did pull a little more forward. He didn't rock quite back as far. So that would be a possibility, something to help him from backing up through the puck.
Yeah, it actually should feel more stable.
There you go.
Look at there, hole in one.
There you
And
go.
it's actually interesting because Kelly, our director of marketing, won her regional event last week. She won first place, and she putts with her toes turned in. So that is really interesting. I love that. We just.
And again, this is 2015. I won the Tri-State PGA Player Development Award. Taught for a long time. When I put a pressure mat down for a golf professional, I'm not trying to teach him how to teach. I'm trying to give him the information, understand what he is looking at, and let him teach his students. I never sit this down and then try to give somebody a series of drills that's going to make them a better teacher, because everybody has their own views, their own philosophies within the golf swing. And as V1, we're not trying to push that upon you. What we're trying to do is create a vehicle that allows you to teach the best way you can to your students. And if we can add tools like a pressure mat, it's only enhancing you. We're not trying to tell you exactly how you do it. And that was, turning his toes in actually was, a great idea. Again, not trying to tell you how to do it or how not to do it, but using this, it allows you to be able to be the best pro you can be.
Awesome. Bart, we'd love your feedback on what you saw on that trace if you caught it. That's really cool. Thank you for suggesting that. And speaking of that, drills,
Yeah.
we have another question about some drills, putting drills.
Okay, one thing, as we look at the pressure mat, one thing, everybody has always spoke of, you want to get your eyes over the golf ball. It's a great, easy teaching aid. It's just the eye line. We set it down. So again, remember how earlier on we were talking about knowing your numbers? So if you set up to it, it's this simple. It's the mirror getting your eyes over the ball. So Bryan, if you lean in till you get your eyes, can you see your eyes on that line? You may have to get a little closer to it if that's going to make you feel a little more comfortable. So now we're going to let it center. If you notice, once his eyes are over the ball, he's in that 60% of his weight is towards his toes. It's understanding that feel when it's over your toes, but not only understanding how it feels, but now visually we know what those numbers are as we're able to practice.
I am so excited we're talking about this because I have always thought about all my weight in my left foot. 70% of my left foot is stay stable during my putting stroke. However, you were telling us that we want to be directly over the ball.
Right.
And I don't think I would ever know my pressure is 60%-ish over the ball without a pressure mat. Bryan, did you feel totally different getting that?
I did.
Totally.
Even when Chip had me move in, I'm actually in more of an aggressive position. Me as an athlete, that's what I would tell you. As a goalkeeper, maybe I'm not an athlete. But I will tell you that being in this position actually feels better for me than sitting back, which I've typically been told.
And again, everything that we talk about pressure mat from full swing, all we hear about is the heels are the accelerator.
Yeah.
You got to get in the heels. Well, if I'm trying to get my head over a ball that's 6 inches away from my toes, it's hard to do that without getting a little bit more weight in those toes in that more athletic position.
Yeah, you're still, it was 57 60th. That is so fascinating. I love it.
So
Contact feels better too.
Again, as we talk about understanding and knowing your numbers, it's using this along with some other swing aids like the eye line to be able to know that your eyes are over the golf ball to truly not only feel your trail to lead, but also knowing your heel to toe numbers as well. I think this is a great tool.
I do too. We sell those on our V1 Sports store.
We do?
Yeah, let's give that away though.
Okay.
Should we? Boss, can we give it away?
Done.
Awesome.
Done.
I love it. Hey
It's
guys, you guys know how we do this. Our director of marketing back here is going to do a random drawing. If you registered, you're already entered. So in a second, she's going to tell us the winner of the eyeline putting aid. So in a second, we'll get that name and I'll shout it out. We have another great question though from Stephen Vig. Stephen, thank you for sending over a question. I'm not quite sure which camera to look at. He would like to know, how does forward hand low change the putting stroke?
Left hand low. Okay. Again, Bryan's been very 50-50. If we look left hand low, that's most likely going to pull his body more to his lead side. So I would imagine going left hand low, we're going to see his number. Hang on, it's not center yet. Did we kick it?
We might have kicked it.
Technical difficulty. We're just going to, oh, that's the left foot. Start. We accidentally unplugged the pressure mat, which then made it disconnect. Now Ryan should be good to go. But again, we were talking left hand low before the.
Wait, really quickly, because if I'm teaching a golf lesson, I accidentally kick the cable. That's just how you restart. You just restart the
Yeah,
software.
we just shut down the software, turn the software back on. It's that
So we
easy.
didn't lose any lesson time. Okay.
Nope,
All right,
nothing.
just point that out. Great.
Again, left hand low, he's been pretty much 50-50. I imagine he's going to be a little more on the lead side. All he's done, he's changed left hand now all of a sudden you see that 50-50 putting stroke. He was almost at 65 into the lead side just by dropping the left hand low. That old cross-handed grip. Now here, since we did it that way, real quick, let's set up to it again. Go claw.
Oh, my favorite.
He's a claw guy. That's why I want to show it. So again, set up to it. Hasn't centered yet. There you go. Now, if you notice that claw, we've done the opposite. He's sort of dropping that right shoulder more. Now, all of a sudden, he's 60% in the trail side. None of those are incorrect. They're fine. It's just a matter of once you get there, you get stable, you stay stable, and you keep that center of pressure solid.
What feels most stable? Which grip?
Normal grip, weight left, eyes over the ball.
How about that? Is that different than an hour ago? Well, I mean, that is so cool, right, guys?
Absolutely.
I love
feeling
that.
comfortable and seeing it on the screen is different, right? Because if I was just standing on a putting green and Chip was telling me that,
Right.
I would feel just very different than if I'm actually watching it on the mat and I know that holding that pressure there keeps me stable. Feels a lot better.
You might think he was crazy for telling you to get that far over the ball,
I
right?
would actually.
Yeah. Sometimes
But
I tell him
again,
it's crazy,
but again,
so that's okay.
It's not by me telling somebody to lean that far forward, they're going to feel that that's incorrect. But by setting the eye line down, getting their eyes over the golf ball, now it's not me telling them that their eyes are over the ball. It's them looking down and they can see that. Then from there, we can look at what their numbers are, know what is correct. And so now we know what we can take to the golf course.
Yeah, and I'd also add in my feel was that I was 85% on my toes, but to think it was really 60-40, right? Which is about the number. There's some confidence that I'm not like
About
you
the
couldn't
fall.
fit paper under my feet. Yeah. But really 60-40 felt, as I said, very athletic and comfortable. But in my brain, I felt like I was literally going to fall over. So
Right.
it was confirming.
I love that. That is awesome and so cool. And we could never have gotten there without this technology. It's really, do we have any more questions yet? No? Do you have any putting drills other than just using the eye line?
I mean, putting, I've always classified putting, there's two different things. There's distance control and line. So the biggest thing is if we talk distance control, I mean, there's 1,000 drills out there. I love the ladder drill, where you're not putting the hole, you're just sort of putting to, 3 foot, 6 foot, 9 feet clear. Another thing I always loved to do was drop 5 balls on the green and putt, and then turn and putt. And all you're trying to do is putt to the fringe. You're just trying to get the ball to stop on the fringe. You're not putting the hole to really develop your sense of speed. Then from there, then you do line drills. So now we're putting, trying to keep putt balls on lines. And then from there, putting them together to actually try to physically putt that hole. I don't like to do a lot of long putting just directly in the hole because even from 6 feet, PGA Tour average is like 60%. So most of your students that you're teaching, if they're just sitting there hitting 6 foot putt after 6 foot putt, they're missing a lot of them. What's that do for their confidence? So I try to do all of my drills. I take the hole away from them. And then once they feel comfortable with either their speed or their line, then bring the hole back in, hit some short putts, and then take it to the golf course.
And then do you ever start on the mat, get some numbers, kind of know your numbers, go do some drills, and then come back to it and see where you're
Absolutely,
at?
see how things change. And again, if they come off the course and they putted really well that day, that's a day to spend. Hey, let's go take 5 minutes. You saw how easy it was to set the mat up to the iPad. Let's get what your numbers are. So now in 3 weeks, when they come back for another lesson and they're struggling, we understand where they were. Not only having the pressure numbers, but again, it's involved with a video. So you have a video with their pressure. Now all of a sudden you can see whether you completely change your setup or you're too far towards your toes or further back towards your heels. It might be lead side trail. You never know what that is. But using the video along with having some pressure data, it's just a great tool to be able to sort of throw everything together when they're playing well to know what to work with when they're struggling.
That's awesome. Take one step this way because the projector's messing up the light on your handsome face. So I was going to say I forgot what I was going to say, but we are going to, you've made putting look so easy and the setup looks so easy. Do you mind sharing some know your numbers for some chipping?
Absolutely.
Short game? We've not talked about that either. What are you pointing at?
Oh, there's a putting question.
Oh, there's a
putting
putting
question.
We're going to get to a putting question while Chip gets his thoughts together about short game. Where's my questions? Let's see. Chat.
Ron on May.
Oh yeah, that's a great question. Any change in setup for downhill putts or uphill putts?
Well, anytime, again, we're keeping the consistency. It's, you know, when we're looking at the numbers, we're wanting to look at consistent, you know, in a level playing field, you know, flat putts for our putting stroke. But yeah, anytime you're going to have a downhill putt where, you know, your left leg is lower, that's going to be your stabilizing leg. So you're definitely going to, your pressure is going to lean forward. Same thing as if you're hitting an uphill putt. It's not like I'm pushing down harder on my lead foot. I'm still using my trail leg for stability. So you're definitely going to see that number rock further back into my trail side on an uphill putt or my lead side for a downhill putt. It's very similar if you're making a full swing. If I'm making a full swing uphill, you know, this is where all my stability is. This foot is still connected to the ground, but all your stability is here. So your numbers are definitely going to be higher to that downhill foot.
And let's say I was working on that in my own home studio and I wasn't quite sure with how to read it. You can take this mat and the technology and the capture your trace and send it to a golf professional through the app.
Absolutely.
And get someone to say, yeah, those numbers look right. No, I don't know. I think let's do this. Think about this drill.
Absolutely. That's the beauty of thinking about, you know, our entire ecosystem. You know, a lot of golf professionals use the V1 Pro, and probably a lot of you guys that are on this call are use the V1 Pro. They look at the pressure mat as an investment, whether, you know, they decide to make it. But the biggest thing is once you have that V1 Pro software, any one of your students can download a free V1 golf app. From that app, select you as a golf professional and send them videos. They can send, if you're, you know, up north, I'm from Pittsburgh, cold weather guy. My members go south for the winter. What better way to stay connected to your members than giving them golf lessons when they're in Florida? So, you know, they go out, play golf, they take a couple of their swings, they send it back to you. You can send them a complete voiceover of that golf lesson, lines, you know, an intro, an outro, thank you for giving me the lesson, all of that kind of stuff, all packaged up, sent right back to them. And if you have any questions on how to do that, you can talk to any of our customer success team like Jackson and Marcella. They're sitting here right now.
Jackson is available for questions live. If anyone wants to ask him, he's here. No, I'm kidding. So let's see, chipping, putting, maybe our chipping.
Well,
and also really quickly about that question, Cheryl Anderson and Mike Bender do this all the time. If you have a mat and you're an uphill or downhill lie, take that mat out on the course.
Absolutely.
Look at it. I mean, those guys have got Instagram videos all over the place of pressure mats and sand traps. So take it out there, like see what happens when you're uphill or downhill. Sorry.
No, you're fine. First of all, as we talk chipping and pitching, we all know they're a little bit different. Chipping is that low driving style, you know, short carry, long roll. Pitching is more, you know, a little more up in the air, a little less roll. As we first talk chipping, it's really putting with loft. So we're going to get set up instead of being that normal 50-50, because again, we all know when it gets a golf ball up in the air, as we hit down through the ball rolls up the club face. As we putted, and if we were more 50-50, we know that putting stroke is a lot flatter at the bottom.
50-50 left foot, right foot, or
50-50 left foot. I'm sorry, 50-50 left foot, right foot. Thanks for keeping me honest there, Mandy. And then as we get set up, since we want to hit down on the ball, what do we know we have to do? We have to get more weight in our lead side. So again, at impact, we want to be closer to that, you know, 70-30. But from there, you know, if we can get there to dress and all we do is putt with loft, we make that same putting stroke, just keeping our weight forward, which is going to allow us to hit down through the golf ball. Some people, you know, you get a lot of those field players that might set up a little more even, but as they putt, you know, as they hit pitches, they do, you know, they're going to slide forward. But again, like I said the other day when we did the junior clinic, at one of the clubs that recently bought us the pressure mat, they, you know, we did putting at 50-50, you know, just really work on keeping that ball stable. I moved forward now to 70-30. I had the iPad on the ground. Again, I'm looking up at this because we're in a studio mode. Getting them to that 70-30, letting it center. Where am I?
65, 70.
Okay. And then from there, just making that same putting stroke. So again, they had the iPad in front of them. They were understanding what 70-30 felt like. They all thought it was wrong. I guarantee you guys have had more of your juniors and your beginner golfers want to help get the golf ball up in the air. So what do? They rock back and then they try to help the ball up in the air. and they hit them all thin. It's a matter of getting that way forward to be able to hit down through it. And this is just, again, another visual way for them to see that.
Okay, so just reiterate, know your numbers for chipping,
Absolutely.
left and right. What are they?
It impact on any of these short game shots. You want low driving shots. You want it to be that 65 to 70. I mean, 70 is not too high.
On the left lead edge.
The lead on your lead foot.
Okay, tell me about the toes versus the heels.
Toes versus the heels. This is, again, chipping. Again, we're going to have our eyes a little more over the ball because the shaft's a little more vertical. So there, we're going to be a little more towards the toes because, again, chipping is nothing more than putting with loft. When we get into pitching, well, then it's going to be more of our normal stance. But again, at impact, we still have to be at that 70-30 because, again, if we're taking a 56-degree wedge and we want to drive it at a 25, 26-degree angle at, at takeoff, we've got to be forward to be able to get that forward shaft lean to be able to actually drive that ball to be able to control distances.
How helpful do you think the pressure mat is out on the course in those scenarios live versus talking about that in the studio setting?
I think the pressure mat on a golf course in a live situation, bunkers, phenomenal. Again, it's feeling that lead side. I mean, people get in bunkers. What do all your students do? They want to help the ball out. Well, now we can actually see and show them we need to be on this lead side to blast that sand out of the bunker and up onto the green.
I have never actually done that in a golf lesson, and I'm dying to do that. Like, I want to see the sand move when I'm standing on a mat in a big old hill, right?
Yep.
And get my weight over, and I cannot do that without.
And again,
Anybody else want to dying to do that?
another question that I get a lot whenever I talk to people about taking the mat outside, the mat itself is waterproof. It is a mat. All the sensors are underneath it. A couple of times when I've had dewy grass, you take it out, you throw it on the dewy grass. It has some moisture in between. I'll take the mat off, take a towel, dry it off, because again, it is technology. You just don't want to leave it wet and mildewy. Take a vacuum to the top of it. This thing sits in my basement behind me when I'm working a lot of the days. I have my dog lay on it, vacuum the dog hair off before I go see a customer. You do.
Does your dog have even pressure when he's lying
No,
on
my
the
dog's
mat?
an
Okay, I'm sorry, just kidding.
There's no pressure. He just sleeps all day. And then the little dongle here, again, when we take this out on a golf course, we are using a phone charger. I wouldn't necessarily want to put this underwater, casual water, that kind of thing. But as long as it's just damp, dewy grass, it's not a problem.
And the battery usually lasts longer than your iPhone.
Oh,
I've never had
absolutely.
my pressure mat
I
battery
actually
back.
had a customer, Brent Johnson, who called me and thought that there was something wrong with his charger because it had lasted for 4 days of lessons and he didn't think it should have lasted that long. So it did happen. I said, I would probably charge it, but it wasn't a problem. It was more he was making a statement. Wow, this is lasting a lot longer than I thought it was. So, it's completely portable. It's hassle-free. Plug it in, and you're done.
I love getting golf pros that should be teaching and really making golfers better. Easy technology to use, right?
Absolutely.
Makes it look good.
I mean, how I know we look at the whole video system, the cameras, and all that kind of stuff, and people that are teaching on a driving range, sometimes all that technology is very scary to think, I've got to take it, I've got to set it up every day, I've got to take it down. When I go in for lunch, what if it rains? Is this just adding to my plate? I know I'm busy answering to members, doing all of these other things that we all know golf pros do. Throw it in the back of the golf cart, head in, throw it back down on the ground. You've got your iPad, which is all the technology you need. The month of June, you do get the pressure mat, the iPad comes free, and you're ready to go.
And what about training? If I want to go through more intense training on the mat, how do I do that?
We do have a pressure mat certification. So if it's something you guys are interested in, if you reach out to either Mandy, Kenny, myself, any of us, we'll get you set up.
Here's our training guy right here. He is. Just kidding. Yeah, we have training anytime, all the time.
Absolutely.
From the best guys ever.
Absolutely. So if there's any questions you have about in any aspect of the V1 ecosystem and you need training, we have a team, and that's what their job is. Their job is to keep you on our platform, keep you happy, keep you teaching your students, making the best students that you can, and providing that to them. As long as you guys are able to provide to your members to your students, that's our goal, is to make sure that you are up and running and ready to teach.
That is awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Chip. And Marcella has a great question. She's asking if I'm like a golfer from the 80s and I'm really attached to my metal spikes. And I really love wearing my metal spikes. Can I do that on the pressure mat?
I wouldn't necessarily do it on the pressure mat, but I wouldn't want to find the golf course that you're still playing in this day and age. I mean, I don't know too many. I know Bryson likes his. And there's a few players on tour that are still stuck with them, but Marcella, I don't know. But I definitely probably would. And that's actually because we do the pressure mat. Obviously we're talking golf. It's also something that's big in baseball. The metal spikes are a bigger deal in baseball. We don't advise them to teach on the pressure mat with even baseball metal spikes. In baseball, we do have some different mats that they'll put over top of them, which will allow that. But again, no metal spikes on the pressure mat.
That's about the only thing to not do on the mat.
Exactly.
So, great question. Thank you, Marcella. That's about the only thing. It's waterproof. You can throw it anywhere. Just don't stand on it with metal spikes. Obviously, if you are still wearing metal spikes. Oh my goodness, that's so funny. Okay. We have a winner of our eyeline putting aid. Haley has told me twice. I'm so sorry. And John Taylor, we are so excited. We'll be sending you this awesome eyeline training aid. Sorry.
It's
It's because I can see the little one over there. So this is the training aid. John, we're so excited you tuned in. We will be sending it to you with a special treat in the mail. Thank you. We will email you for your address as well. Okay. Do we have any other questions, folks? Any other questions from our team? Let me just look really quick. Chipping drills. Do you have any drills for chipping?
Chipping drills is very, again, very similar. I like to throw, chipping is, you think of it as, your sand wedge you're going to carry about 2/3 of the way, roll a third. Your pitching wedge you carry about half, roll half. Your 9/8 iron, should be carry a third, roll 2/3. There's some of those different numbers, and depending on your shaft lean, some of those numbers are going to change. But the thing is with chipping, it's all about your carry distance, understanding your, controlling your carry distance. So if I'm, going to pitch with my pitching wedge or hit a little chip with my pitching wedge, I want to work on that carrying halfway, rolling halfway. If I got too much forward shaft lean, that might be my gap wedge. But it's understanding what clubs you can chip with that would carry a third, roll 2/3, carry half, roll half, carry 2/3, and roll 1/3. And then like setting hula hoops out there, or setting golf balls out there, and just trying to carry the ball to that spot. So now when you take it to the golf course and putts breaking left or right, downhill, uphill, all those, you just move that visual hula hoop or where you're trying to land the ball, and you make that same little, putting with loft stroke, get it to carry that, and then it should roll the rest of the way, as long as you're using the correct club that you've been practicing with for those 1/3, half, and 2/3 carry distances.
Because I already know my numbers based on what I've learned on the pressure mat to be able to get that on the course. Right?
Absolutely.
Recreate that and repeat that. Right. Awesome. Know your numbers. That's the theme here, guys. And really different numbers when we're talking about putting and chipping than all that weight in the left foot and in your heels.
And another thing is we talk to our students. I don't know how much you guys have really learned as far as the whole ecosystem around that V1 coach, V1 game, where it's your students are using V1 game to really take that out on the golf course, where you can really dial down, is chipping where they're losing their strokes? Are we even needing to work on a chipping lesson? Maybe they're struggling from 160 to 140 yards. They're missing everything short and right. By using those tools that we have that are all part of V1 Pro, V1 Pro, if you have V1 Pro, you get V1 Coach. Using those tools will only allow you to become better teachers if that's what your students are looking for. By then using the V1 game app, you have complete access to all of their stats that you can actually analyze before you even take that.
Wait a second. Let me get this straight. You're saying if I use the V1 game app and I go out and play golf, and I'm playing golf and I'm having all the shots, And then that, all those data stats, what happens to them, they can go to my coach.
They can go right to your coach. This isn't
Do I
just,
need to put notes in about what I felt like happened on the course?
you always, of course you can.
But the data goes straight.
Absolutely, go straight to your teaching.
That is pretty cool.
This is actually something where we're starting to get into working with college coaches, high school coaches, really allowing them, it works from an iPhone, an Apple Watch. So your player or your student can be wearing their Apple Watch on the golf course. At the end of the round, go through their phone, make sure that all their putts are in there correctly, all of their stats go. From there, now as a golf coach or as an instructor, I can look at that before the lesson and know exactly where they've been struggling and what we need to work on. Because again, as a coach, your job is to help the student. Your job is not to give the lesson that your student wants. If the guy time after time wants to come hit, rip driver after driver after driver, and you're just standing there, watching him do that, that's really not the best avenue to be helping that student. But if you can start getting all their raw numbers and the data, there's no better way to truly become an instructor and really improve that student's game.
Takes the emotions out of it, right?
Yep.
We have another great question from Steven. And this question is, do you like Bryson's putting style with a longer putter anchored to his left forearm?
Personally, I'm not a fan of it. People are, again, they make it very successful. We used to have the anchoring that was legal. When they took that away, everybody was trying to find an avenue to get an advantage. It works for some players. To me personally, I lose the feel, because I do like have a little bit of wrist hinge action. But if you look at Bryson's entire game, it's all that single axis, that it's very, one plane. And for him, that putting stroke fits his body. But I guarantee you, if you put him on a pressure mat, he's not going to be moving around. So once he gets into that position where he feels comfortable that he can roll a putt, he's making that stroke, but his pressure is going to stay very still.
So what I heard at the beginning about putting is there's a lot of things that affect it. As long as you capture the proper
What's working for
percentage,
you.
what's working for you at your best game,
Absolutely.
that's where you should know your numbers. So
Absolutely.
Bryson's numbers probably work great for him there. It might not be great for all of us.
He's making more putts than we are,
But, well, he is. That's for
except
sure.
on the back nine on Saturday. So you can't say anything there.
That's true. Okay. Thanks for all the really great questions, you guys. And I really appreciate all the teamwork here, help from everyone that's here tonight. Any other questions from our group? Anyone else want to feature anything? I would like to show really quickly the other graphs in the app, since we have, in the software. This is a basic Tuesday trace tonight, but let's make sure everyone knows there are 3 graphs that come with the software. They are pressure, dynamic vertical force, and velocity. You will see what happens when Chip stands on the mat. Okay, so you don't have to use these. There are some different things that different instructors do with these graphs. Paul Woodbury uses the velocity graph constantly with his juniors, but I just want you to be they are also in the mobile app. You can use them to get the different graph to change. But when you're doing personal training or personal practice, definitely the pressure graph with the weather map is definitely the.
Yeah, that's 95% of what most people are using. When you do start using that velocity chart, what that's measuring is movement from either trail side to hillside. Trail side to lead or lead to trail. And by using that, it's not just using that to see how fast that vertical shift is happening, but that's actually more important to be using with the video aspect. So it's not only how fast they're making that movement, but also where in the swing is that happening? Is that happening, P4, P5, is it still on the way back? Where are we starting to see that velocity move forward?
Awesome. Cool. So I just wanted you guys to see those graphs. All right, I think we can stop our screen share. And I'm going to wrap up our webinar. So you guys, I just wanted to thank everyone for joining us tonight. Chip, thank you for all that amazing instruction.
Absolutely.
Do you mind wrapping up our webinar tonight? We have some really amazing things happening with the company, and I would love for you to just say a few words about the next few minutes or the next few months. I don't get you in
I
front
can
of this
get-
audience very often,
Well,
right?
first of all, thank you guys, everybody here, for helping set up, and thank you for coming to the home. This is my practice area, as you can tell. I wish I was better, but practice does make perfect. If there's one thing you did here tonight, I hope you heard swing banking, because that, for me, regardless of who I'm working with, and I've been fortunate to work with Michael Breed and Darren May and Chris Como and Jake Thurman. Jake was a guest of ours on one of the shows. These guys always talk about, when were you playing your best? It isn't me compared to a Bryson or to a Xander or anybody else. It's when I'm playing my best. The mat helps, the video helps, all of it helps. It really swing banks. So it's been fun. I think if you look at the next 3 to 6 months for our company, what you're going to hear, and what hopefully you've heard a lot from our team here, is that it's about the ecosystem. It isn't one piece of the puzzle that makes V1 great. It's all those pieces put together. We hope that you don't need to go outside of that ecosystem to get what you need, whether you're an instructor, whether you're just an avid, crazy golfer like me, or you're somebody just passionate about the game. And whether, again, that's teaching or learning. You've got the mat, you've got the video, you've got V1 game, you've got V1 golf, V1 golf plus. There's so many tools that all tie seamlessly together to give you the best opportunity to be better at what you do. And I can tell you, as a past professional soccer player, I wish I was kicking soccer balls against the screen. There's nothing like having that team. And we think that's kind of what, whether it's the human team that we have here in the room, or it's the actual team that's in our app ecosystem, that would help you be the best teacher or the best golfer or the best baseball player that you can be. So we're excited for the next 3 months, 6 months in our company, that more and more of that is going to get stitched together. We're all here together this week because we're growing our team. So if you'd like to join our team, we'd love to have you, whether that's as an ambassador, whether that's on social media influencer, whether that's someone contributing content to us, or you work with a pro and you want to send in swings. We love all of that. That's what makes our ecosystem the best, is that we don't go out and buy that stuff. It's user contributed stuff that we really love, the fact that the people who use it, whether it's Mike Shai and Chris Como working with Bryson, speaking of our good friend, all that stuff that we have comes from those guys because they love our platform and they actually use it as teaching professionals, playing professionals, working with juniors, all the way up to the men and women who make a living playing this game. So yeah, we're geeked, as you can tell. Very excited. Thank you, Chip, for the putting lessons. I'm definitely eyes over the ball and forward in my lean, which I was not doing. So once again, I should expect my handicap to drop.
Awesome.
Congratulations.
And if it doesn't, I know where to find you.
Awesome. Thanks, Bryan.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.